Hi, I'm George Pearson, and these are just a few examples from some of the training videos I have here on YouTube. Now, when you're working with the training, following along the training, if you want to get the materials I used in the training, just go to the description down below and click on the link that's at the top of the description, and this will take you to a page where you can download the materials. Please subscribe, click the like button, and of course always share on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Well, it's almost St. Patrick's Day, so I thought we'd make a nice little St. Patrick's card here you can do. This is just going to be the picture for this. Now, to do this image, we're going to be making this out of a heart shape right there, which is one of the graphics included here inside of Photoshop Elements. And this whole bit up here, this also is just a graphic included in Photoshop Elements. So we'll be making the clovers in the background, doing them as a pattern, and then doing the 4-leaf clover here in the foreground, and then just tossing that on top to finish the whole thing off. Okay, let's go ahead and get this started. I'll get that out of the way. We'll start off with a new blank file here, and we'll have this at the default Photoshop Elements size. And I want the same ratio here, 6:4, but I want to have the width at 4 inches and the height at 6. So we'll just reverse those two and leave it at 300 pixels per inch on the resolution. That's a printer resolution. Choose OK, and there we go. There is the new file. Let's just zoom in a bit on that. There we go. Now the first thing we're going to be doing here is creating the clover leaf pattern. So I'll just drop that in the background there for a second. There we are. Now I'll make this out of, again, a graphic over here. Bring our graphics up. And we'll come back to that in just a second. Let's change this to by type. And we'll change our type over here to shapes. And then if we scroll down, there's a couple of heart shapes in here. We want to use the longer of the two heart shapes. I'll just scroll on down till we get down to that. And it's pretty close now, down in this area someplace. A lot of these people things and flowers and so forth. And they'll be coming down to that heart any second. Now there we go. So there's two hearts in here. Kind of a wide heart and a tall heart. You want the tall heart one. Now it's just called heart. So this one over here is called heart card, but that one's just called heart. Now I'm going to set the foreground color over here to a medium green. Let's just click on that. And the medium green that I use, I'll just type this in here, was 07B22B. But if you look at the color chart, it's about 1/3 of the way down and a little in off of the edge. You know, any place in here is fine. Doesn't have to be this exactly. Any place in here. So down about 1/3 and then in a little bit off the edge. Now on all of these colors, since we're working with greens and some bright greens in here as well, and we're going for a print output, you want to make sure that you're not right against this edge. Stay away from this edge. This is full saturation over here, and printers have a hard time printing out green, especially the lighter greens up here, if it's full saturation. So keep your greens a little bit away from the edge and you'll be fine. So again, 1/3 down and anywhere around over in here, just not against that edge, and that'll be good. Now the green on here is just kind of right in the middle of the green range, as you can see in there. So it's just a standard mid-tone green. And we'll set that as our foreground color. We now can double click on the heart, and that places a heart onto the page in a nice green color. This is going to be the dark color of our leaf, and we'll use this as the basic leaf. Okay, we can now go back to our layers again. Now I want to simplify this. This comes in as a graphic shape, so we want to simplify the layer. Right click and simplify. Now we can do some more stuff on this and we can recolor it, whatever. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. There we go, so it's easy to see this. And I'll pull a guideline in from the rulers. If your rulers aren't showing, go up to View and click on Rulers right there. And then just grab the left side ruler and pull a guideline in. You can see it right there. Pull it in until it's right at the middle. It should snap right to that middle section. If it doesn't snap, Again, check your view and make sure that Snap to Guides is checked. It probably is. That's the default setting. Now, go up here to the marquee. Make sure that you're on the rectangular marquee right here, the left side. And then click out here someplace above and to the right of the heart shape. And then drag a rectangle down. And it's going to snap onto that middle position. That's fine. That's going to give us this area here that we can now fill. We'll be putting a light green in here, so click on the foreground color again, and I'll change this light green to something a bit brighter, so 27E, 91E is what I used. Notice that I'm down about 1/4, so if here's a half, that's a quarter, I'm down about a quarter, and again I'm in from the right side, so I'm staying away from that right side. This is just a bit of a brighter green, not real bright, but a bit of a brighter green. If you want to go a little brighter, that's fine, just go up just a touch. So yeah, anywhere around in here is good. And then grab the paint bucket and click in here. It will fill in that side of the heart. Okay, let's just go ahead and deselect. So there we go. You can get rid of this guideline now if you want. We're no longer going to be using that. Easy way is just view and clear guides and lose it out. So there we go. There is the basic heart shape, which is now a leaf shape. Now we want to make a 3-leaf clover out of this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. There we go, just kind of back out a bit on the zoom. So take the shape up here, drag it up to the new layer button, gives you a copy. So there's the copy. We're now going to rotate this copy around just a little bit. So image, rotate, and want to free rotate the layer. And you can see here's our angle. You see the angle right down there. If I grab this and kind of pull this around like that, you can see how it rotates that around. What you want is 120 degrees. I'll just type that in here, 120 degrees. That brings it around 1/3 of the way. Let's grab that layer and copy that. And that's right here. Do the exact same thing. We're going to rotate this around. So it's image, rotate, free rotate layer, and I'll just type in the 120 this time. There we are. And then if we bring those together, that will give us our 3-leaf clover. Now I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on this and position these nicely using the cursor keys, the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm going to just kind of move these around a little bit until I can get the points just touching. This isn't really critical, but it's just nice just to do a clean job. There we go. Okay, so we now have a 3-leaf clover. We don't have a stem on here yet though, so we're going to make a stem. Let's go back to our graphics. Here we are. And then if we scroll down a little bit, and right here, we're just down below the hearts, as you can see there. It's another shape. It's our leaf ornament. We're still on the light green. That's fine. Double click on that. And that places a leaf ornament in here in light green. Now we're going to be using this to create our stem. I'm going to put it right there just for a minute. And let's zoom in so you can see this. There we go. Now, once again, go to the layers. And I'm going to name this one stem. There we are, and this is, I'm going to name this one Leaf 1. We'll be needing that again in just a little bit. So back to our stem, right click, and simplify that layer. I can now take the eraser tool or any other tool you want, it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to get rid of that part of it and leave just the stem. Let's now drag this way out like that, being kind of long. Then I'm going to come out here to the outside corner and just kind of spin that around. The exact amount is just, whatever you feel like. I've had that at 108 degrees just then. We'll see how that looks. And let's position that in behind our leaves. There we go. I'll bring that back just a little bit. And just kind of in behind. Like that, just making a little leaf in the background. Now I want to do a little cut in here for the bottom of the stem. So I'll be using the elliptical marquee. I'm just going to kind of draw a circle like this up here someplace. Doesn't need to be exact. Let's just position that and then I'll kind of pull it around. Somewhere like this, and then hit the delete key. That just cuts that out and leaves a little curved piece there. Now there's a little bit of stem up there. I'm just going to move this up here, hit the delete key, and clean that out as well. Okay, so there's the stem. Let's now back up a little bit, and there's our basic clover leaf. Okay, now next thing I want to do is I want to combine all of these layers together. So I'm going to hide the background layer. This is very important. Make sure that background layer is hidden and these layers are visible. Now click on the top layer. Now we're going to use my favorite keyboard shortcut, which is Control-Alt-Shift-E. Let me just show that for you here. I'll bring that up. There we go. Control-Alt-Shift-E, or on Mac, Command-Option-Shift-E. Upper lowercase, doesn't matter on the E. Let's see what happens. There you go. What that does is it takes all of these layers and copies them all to a new layer up there. I can now hide all of this stuff. And we now have this nice layer, everything combined onto that one layer. Let's bring our background in again. There we are. Now we're going to be making the background for this. And I'll be pulling in a couple of guidelines again here. I'm coming down here 1 inch. There we go. And I'll pull one over at the 1 inch mark. So that gives me a spot here, 1 inch by 1 inch. I'll now pull this up, and then grabbing the corner, I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. So it's kind of in there about like that. So it takes up, a good portion of that side there, but not the whole thing. And I now want to rotate this backwards a little bit. So I'm going to grab the corner out here and just kind of back rotate just a bit, and I think somewhere around 20 degrees or so. You can see it right down here, 18, 20. I'll just type in -20. Missed my negative there. There we go. So -20 degrees. And just put it in right about there. Let's make a copy of that layer. I'm going to call this one Clover 1 and spell it correctly. Let's grab that, make a new layer. This is my copy. I'll make this one Clover 2. There we go. Pull it down. Now this one I want to have smaller, so I'll grab the corner and make it smaller. And let's change this degree to 20 and then do 20 again. So I'm rotating around 20 degrees a couple of times here. And let's do that one more time on that. There we go. So one goes 20 left or counterclockwise, one goes 20 clockwise. And let's just zoom in a little bit on this. And then using the arrow keys, cursor keys on my keyboard, I'm going to just position this a little bit. Just about like that. The exact positioning isn't important, but that's, so they're kind of in this setup. That's fine. Now, hide the background. And we're going to save this as a pattern. Now to do that, I want to have my whole image be just 1 inch by 1 inch. So grab the crop tool right there. Let it come in. And I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit here so you can see this. And let's get to our edges. There we go, that works. And then back to the crop tool. Now we still have our snap on our guidelines. So I'm going to pull the bottom of the crop up to that 1 inch horizontal and then pull this one into the 1 inch vertical. It'll snap to that position, hit the OK or green check mark, and that now sets that in at that size. We can now save this as a pattern. So go up here to Edit, Define Pattern. Call this one Clovers and choose OK. So it's now saved as a pattern. Now if we undo crop, so it's edit, undo crop, or Control Z, it puts us back to the full size page again. Now you have to do that move right there. As soon as you save it to your pattern, then do the edit, undo crop, so you're back to the full size on your image. Okay, so far so good. Let's now go over here to the paint bucket, click on the pattern fill, and you should see your new pattern right there. Click on that little drop down arrow, you'll see our pattern in here. That's my new one. There's the old one, made a little bit larger this time. Click up here, and you can then save this pattern if you want to. Save patterns. You can save it so you don't lose that pattern. If you want to, you can save it to a different pattern as well. But there we go. Let's just cancel that. So we have our pattern in there all set to go, which is perfect. We now can hide Clover 2 and Clover 1. We don't need those any longer. They've done their job, which is just to make that pattern for us. Now let's go back down to the background. Grab the background, make a new copy of that. I always just make new copies of everything in here. I save that just in case. So I want to go back to my clean background. On this, we're going to fill this with a color. So let's go back over here to our colors. And I want to have kind of a medium green on this one. And let's just choose something in here. And the one that I used was one EC611. So it's just a bit darker than the light color that we used. That was the light color right there. It's a bit lighter than the dark color that we used. It's kind of like in between those other two greens. The one green was down here, other green was up here. So it's kind of right in between those two greens. And again, it's not at the full edge over here on the right hand side. So as long as you're around in here somewhere, you should be fine. Or just look at your last color and make it a little bit darker than your last color. Choose OK. And paint bucket, make sure your paint bucket is over here on paint. So switch that back over again and click and then fill that with your paint bucket. Okay, now click over on the pattern. Make sure your pattern is our new pattern and click again, and it fills it with that new pattern. So there we go. There's the background for the card. So that step is done. We can now get rid of our guidelines. They're no longer needed. So view and clear guides. Let's now make our big clover in here. So I'll hide that background. I'm just going to name this one Clover Background. It's easy to see, of course, but I'll just name it anyway. So get rid of that. Bring our white back up again. Let's come back to our first leaf, which is this one here. We now want to have a 4-leaf clover. I want the leaf and I want the stem. There's our stem. And I'll click on the stem. I'm just going to move the stem out of the way just for a moment. We'll bring that back in again. Okay, back to our leaf number 1 in here. And let's zoom in. And we're going to be putting in a gradient in here. Now I'll be using these two colors. The background was already white, and then that's our foreground. I'll leave those two colors as is. That's fine. Let's just reverse the colors, and then up here grab the magic wand. Make sure that you're on the right layer. So here's our leaf layer. We can then take the magic wand and click inside. There we go. Of the green over here on the light green side. Now I'm just going to use my cursor keys. I'm just going to tap it down and over a little bit. This doesn't need to be anything exact, so just kind of down about like that in there. I didn't count how many taps I did, but we're down a bit. You know, maybe 1/8 of an inch down if you're measuring it, and over just a little bit. 1/16 of an inch maybe over. And let's grab the paintbrush and set the paintbrush on a soft brush, and I'll change my brush size in here. I want to have just a nice large brush on this. We're going to be painting a little bit of white up here. That's too big, too small. That's pretty good. I just tapped 3 times, 1, 2, 3. I mean, a little bit of a curve right there. but not so far that I'm going too far over into here. I want to keep it on this side. Okay, so far so good. Let's just deselect that. There's our first half. Do the same thing on the other side now. Again, grab the magic wand, click on that side. Don't worry about that. That doesn't matter. We can fix that easily though. And then just like before, I'll use my cursor keys and just tap down and bring that selection down. Make it so it's about the same height as that. Now we can fix this a little bit right here by going to the rectangular marquee, and I want to add that bit to the selection. So make sure that you're on Add, and then click up here and just kind of drag down and over a little bit. See a little rectangle there, and just add that in. Okay, we're now going to be doing the exact same thing as before. Paintbrush. We already have our large size. We're on our green color. This is the light green. And then the same thing we did before. I'm just going to come in here and just tap a couple of times in here on that side. Okay, let's go ahead and deselect. Now I went a little bit over that edge. We can fix that easily enough. You just reselect. And then using the cursor keys, I'm going to put that selection back up where it was. There we go. Now the inside is selected. I want the outside selected. So inverse, select inverse, and I can now just grab my eraser and just kind of clean that edge up just like that. Okay. So there's the basic leaf pattern. We now need to copy this 4 times. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Let's just do Alt and zoom out. There we go. You can see this. So I'll make a copy of this layer. Drag it up here to the new layer button. There's our copy. So you can see there's our second leaf. Let's rotate this one 90 degrees. So image, rotate layer 90 degrees right, just like that. And I'll put them right there. Okay, grab another one of those up here, and that copy that layer, as you can see there. Same thing again. Image, transform, rotate rather. There we are. 90 degrees right again, and that's our bottom leaf. Take that layer, drag it up here, new layer button. There we go. Let's rotate this one. Image, rotate 90 degrees right, and there we go. Okay, now let's bring these in. So I'll zoom in, and then using the cursor keys, the arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm going to tap these in until they are just touching in the middle. And so I want to have that one next. There we go. Bring this one in, just like that. And then our bottom one is that layer. And just use my keyboard again, just tapping that in place. Okay, there we go. Let's zoom out a little bit. So there's a basic 4-leaf clover. Now I want to rotate this 4-leaf clover around a little bit. And we're going to first merge this together. So basically the same thing that we did before up here with our other clovers. So make sure that everything is hidden. I'll hide the stem as well. I don't want to move that yet. Hide the stem, hide the background. Let's merge all this together. Click on your top layer right there. And then the same keyboard shortcut was the Control, Alt, Shift, and E. And it merges those together. There we are. I can now hide the individual leaves. Bring our stem back up again. So there's the stem right there. And I'll bring the white back up so you just have something easier to see. So here's our new one. I can now rotate this backwards a bit. Just come just outside the corner and rotate to the left like that. I'll do the same, maybe a little more this time, something over in here somewhere, just kind of visually, something which looks nice to you. There we go. Let's now go back down to our stem, which is way down here. I'm going to drag the stem up just underneath that layer. And I'll bring that up in and rotate that a bit so it kind of fits in that white space in there. like that. Make it a little bit larger. This is just kind of, visually whatever looks nice. So about like that. Okay. I want to merge those two layers together. We're done with the stem, so I can now merge it with this layer. So select them both, hold the control key down, click on them both, right click, and merge layers. So they're now one layer. Now we can hide the white background and show our cloverleaf background. Let's now do a couple of layer styles on this clover in here. Go up to Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings, and I want to have a stroke on this. Click on the color over here and set that to white. Just drag up upper left hand corner to white. It gives us a white outline. Make sure it's on outside and opacity is 100%. I can now bring that up. Someplace in the mid-30s is fine. So just have a nice fat white outline around that clover. And let's also give it a drop shadow as well. Now on the drop shadow in here, the distance does that. Kind of see the distance moves the shadow. The size softens or hardens up the edge. There you go. And the opacity makes it transparent or opaque. So we have those three basic settings in here to handle the position of that drop shadow. So you can choose wherever you want to have that drop shadow happening. I'll have mine bottom right hand corner just like this. But I want to bring it in just a little bit. And let's just make sure position is good. Now notice the drop shadow is only on the leaf. It's not on the white outline. If you want to have it on the white outline, there's one additional step. I'm just going to cancel this right now. Let's just fix that one bit. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to hide the clover leaf for a second. Now, let's apply just the outline on this. So layer, layer style, style settings. Let's put our stroke in white again. And we'll bring it up to the mid-30s. I think 35 is pretty nice. And choose OK. So I put just the outline. Now notice we have this little FX over here. That is showing me that white outline is on there as an effect. But I want to have that as an actual part of this graphic so that my drop shadow matches the white outline. So right click and simplify layer. Notice how the FX has now gone away. So I've merged the effect into the actual graphic. Now we can go back and do the drop shadow as a second pass, and you'll see the difference this time. So layer, layer style, style settings, drop shadow, and now as I pull the distance out, notice how the drop shadow now is following the outside part, the white part of that. So if you do this as separate steps, you get more control over this. I think right about in here is pretty good. I want this opacity down into the mid-30s again. Like that. Choose OK. Let's bring our background back up. And that looks pretty good. Let's now get that positioned. Zoom tool. Just tap that out. Let's just do this actually. I'll do View and Fit on Screen. And I'll pull that down towards the bottom of the page, just like that. Okay, so the clover is done. That's all done. Our background is finished. All we have left is just that top bit up here. Now that's a graphic. Go back over to our graphics. And let's go up here and change this to graphics. We're doing graphics, graphics. It's one of our graphics in here. Make this easy to find. It's hidden inside all of this stuff. Make it easy to find. Actually, there it is right there. But let me show you a little trick. Go over here where it says by type. Come down and do by event. And then from your list of events, choose St. Patrick's Day. And there it is right there. So double click on that. And that brings it in. Here it is right there. It's very, very small. So grab the outside corner and drag that up. So that's larger. Now this is a vector graphic at this point, so it's going to scale perfectly. Don't worry about how fuzzy it is. As soon as you click on the check, it resets that, and it's now nice and sharp. Okay, back to our layers. And I want to have that drop shadow that we did on that last step. So let's go back to our layer 1. This is our shamrock here, our 4-leaf clover. And just type this in here. There we go. 4-leaf clover is right there. And right click. And down here, copy layer style. Click on that. Copy the layer style. Now if I go up a bit, you can find here's our St. Patrick's Day text is right there. That's that. Right click, paste layer style, and it matches the shadow from that step. So there we go. There is our real fast little St. Patrick's Day card with all custom graphics and everything. Now if you can at this point make any changes you want to have on this. You can make this I think a bit larger, would look nice in here. And I think a little more of a rotation. Just making it look kind of a little more artistic that way. But there we go. Let's just grab the panel up here, drag it off so it's now a floating window, and we'll zoom in just a touch and see how we did. There we go. There's our St. Patrick's Day card. Now one thing about that bit I just did, the little floating bit, I've had this question asked a lot, so let me just demonstrate it here at the end of this video. To do that, go up to Edit, Preferences, and General. Make sure that Allow Floating Documents in Expert Mode is checked and Enable Floating Document Window Docking. Make sure that those are both checked and choose OK. Now to float the window, just grab the title and drag it down, and it snaps into a floating window just like that. You can then resize this, whatever you want, reposition it. It's really easy this way to work. Sometimes it's easier to work other ways when it's docked. To dock this window, just grab the title bar of the window and drag it back up into place, and kind of notice there's a blue outline goes around the window and the window grays out or just kind of fades out. When it does that, let go, and it then snaps back into position again. So there you go. That's how you do that floating window trick. But there it is. That is how to make a St. Patrick's Day card. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this